Yesterday I turned 33. I wasn't alone, but it was the loneliest day of my life. Prior to my last birthday, all of my birthday parties were big and full of people, and that has a lot to do with the way I was raised. I guess you can say that I grew up lonely, and as a result, I long for the company of others. Although I don't particularly do well with new faces, I'm the type of person who has a hard time opening up to new people, but once you become a friend, you will have me as a friend for life. Both my parents are workaholics, and they've always been that way. My two grandfathers from both sides of the family are the chairman of their respective corporations. Both companies are ranked in the top 50 corporations in Japan, and therefore the competition among their children to become the heir of their respective companies are fierce, to say the least. I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that the marriage of my parents was in some ways a business transaction. After all, being married to the son or daughter of another top 50 corporation is always a plus. You see, I never felt love between my parents. They were always cordial to each other, and I never once saw them fight. Some people might say that's a good thing, but I saw something completely different. I see the parents of my friends and their relationship doesn't appear to be perfect, even though they try to show only the positive sides when I hang out at their place. That's normal because there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. My parents, though, everything about them is so perfect on the outside that the only thing that could explain the way they are is that it's all facade. They live the life so perfectly that they put on the act even in front of their own child. So think about it. Growing up, how much love do you think I would have been given by my parents? What kind of love would they have for a child they've made to display him to the public as a show of a happy marriage? My parents held me in public. They smiled at me and kissed me in the presence of business partners and or friends, but they never showed the same affection in private. I grew up filthy rich. I had and have everything a person could want as far as things are concerned. But I grew up lacking the one thing a child should never have to live without, and that is the love of the parents. During my childhood, I had spent more time with my nanny than I had with my biological parents. That messed me up pretty good, and honestly, I don't consider myself to be normal. I'm not saying that I go around murdering people or doing some crazy things, but I have my issues, and as you can see, I'm fully aware of that. Lack of confidence in just about everything, and my inability to have a romantic relationship with the opposite sex are two of the main obstacles I face on a daily basis at this stage in my life. As I mentioned, I'm 33, but I never had a girlfriend, and so there's that. I don't like being exposed to new people or places. I like to go to the restaurants my parents used to take me. I feel most at peace when I'm with my friends from school. I have a hard time working at my grandfather's company because I'm forced to interact with so many unfamiliar people. So that in a nutshell is me. This one night, I stayed late at the office because my dad had complained about my work ethic earlier in the day. I'm really not the corporate type, and unfortunately for my parents, my intelligence is very average. I was an average student, I'm an average athlete, and I'm an average worker. I'm sort of the outlier in the family because really, it seems like everyone from both sides of the families are freaking geniuses. The only way I can show my parents that I'm trying is staying late at the office and doing extra work. So that's what I do when my dad breaks my balls about basically me being the only idiot in the family. I went over some company financial data and personnel files to better familiarize myself with the ins and outs of the company, so I could at least pretend to know some things. I must have been seated for like 3 hours straight when I decided to call it a day because my butt was hurting so much. I got up and checked my cell phone. It was 11:20 p.m. It was really quiet outside the office because at around that time, no one but the two overnight security guards are present in the building. So I grabbed my briefcase and walk out of the office. I'm walking toward the elevator when I see someone through the glass walls in the marketing department. By the time I get to the door, I can tell it's a woman. As I said, I'm not good with new people, and especially women. But for some reason, the shit that I got from my dad earlier in the day pops in my head, and I'm thinking, I should be more proactive with company matters. I'm walking toward her and thinking she too probably got an earful from someone she answers to, because otherwise, there's no reason for her to be here at such late hours. I'm right behind her, but she doesn't budge. I've made enough noise walking toward her to not startle her, so this is really awkward. I fake a cough and say, "Excuse me." Then finally, the woman turns her head around to respond. Her head is cocked at an odd angle, and apparently she's flexible as fuck because my neck would probably snap if I rotated it that far toward my back. Not a biggie, some people are just flexible. But anyways, she says, "I have to finish this," and goes back to writing something down again. She didn't say, "Excuse me, can I help you?" or anything else that one might expect to hear in that situation. Another weird thing is that she's writing some kind of report on a paper. Who uses paper nowadays to do anything? I was taken aback initially, but now more than anything, I feel bad for her. Looking at her, I feel like I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I mean, her superior must have teared a new one for her to be working at this hour. So I go, "Excuse me, how do I say this? I'm actually your boss's boss." What I'm trying to say is, whatever your superior told you before he left, my overall takes precedence. You can go home. I promise you, you won't get in trouble tomorrow. Just give me your name. I'll come in early tomorrow and take care of everything. Then she says the most peculiar thing ever. "You're very kind. I wish you were there." And she leaves me completely dumbfounded. Before I could even respond, she speaks again. "You have to go. He's coming. His footsteps." She is right. I hear footsteps coming from the hallway, and so I look in that direction to check who it is. Then the footstep sound stops abruptly. I look to her again, and I almost have a heart attack. She's gone. She made no sound getting up from her chair, not even a little squeak. And another thing is, I barely looked away some 5 seconds. There's only one door in and out of this office, and I was looking in that direction. So how in the hell does she just disappear? I walk away from her desk, scared out of my mind. I step into the hallway and shut the door behind me. I take one step, and that's when I hear the sound of another person's footstep coming from inside the office. I want to look, but I'm too terrified. I contemplate for a few seconds, but in the end, walk away. I walk faster and faster as I get closer to the security desk, and I feel like I just dodged a bullet when I see the 2 security guards seated near the front door. I went home directly after that and could barely sleep a few hours before sunrise. I went to work early that day because I wanted to check just what the hell happened with the woman from the previous night. I was the first person to enter the building, aside from the security guards who were changing shift. I waited in the exact office and desk where the mysterious woman was working at. One by one, people came in, but the woman was nowhere to be seen. Sometime later, a man walks toward the desk I'm occupying and says, "Good morning, sir. Can I help you with something?" I respond, No, I'm waiting for someone who works on this desk. Thank you." "That would be me, sir." "I'm sorry, you work at this station?" "Yes, sir. That's been my desk for the past 3 years." "Oh, then let me ask you a question. Is it a common practice in this department for people to freely use other people's desk?" No, sir. That would be highly inappropriate. It never happened, sir. Yeah, that was a dumb question. Let me ask you one more thing. Can you check for me if everyone who should be present in this department is in the office right this moment? Of course, sir. It'll take a minute. The man walks away and goes around the office checking the desks and the faces that are occupying them. He promptly jogs toward me a few minutes later and says, "Sir, everyone's present and accounted for." I feel like I've just been hit in the back of the head, unable to say anything or even think straight. I stay seated mum, looking like a soulless mannequin. The man speaks again. "Sir, if there's a problem, you should probably speak to Mr. Tanaka." He then points to a bald man and says, "He's the man in charge of the department." The department head noticed me when the man pointed toward him, and he came pretty much sprinting toward me. I explained to both men that I was there for personal reasons and that there was no problem. I went to my office after that and began going through the personnel files I was studying last night. You have the pictures and all the relevant information of all employees in the documents, so it made sense to try to look for her there. I spent the entire morning going through the files, but I couldn't find her there. I saw her face for less than a minute, but she's got one of those unforgettable faces. Not only is she really beautiful, but she just has that unique face that you don't find much among the Japanese people. I skipped lunch and went over the files again, but the result was the same. I had spent the entire day obsessed at identifying the woman, and all I got out of it was that she didn't exist in the database. One by one, people finished their work and went home. The last two persons stepped out of their office at 9:30 p.m. I am now alone in the building again. The security guards are on the ground level, and I'm on the 7th floor. That's a long way for anyone to come help me if I were to get in some kind of trouble. I've been thinking about this moment the whole day, debating whether it would be a good idea to wait for the woman to reappear. I want to talk to her again, but the footsteps I heard and what she said about someone coming lingers in my head. At 10 p.m., I finally muster enough courage to step out of my office and walk toward the department where I found the woman last night. This could all be in my head, but I feel like I could hear another person walking behind me. But it's confusing because the footstep is slightly delayed from the steps I take, and the echoes in the hallway make it nearly impossible to separate the two. It's like someone's trying to walk at the same speed that I'm walking at, but I can't be certain because I feel terrified right now and I could be imagining all kinds of things. Right outside of the department, I can see the woman seated on the same desk from last night through the glass walls that separate us. I open the door with enough force to make a noise and walk toward her with the intent to let my presence be known. It isn't any different from last night. She's in her own world and could care less of anything else that's happening around her. Standing right behind her, I say, "Excuse me, miss," and she turns her head to say the same thing from last night. I have to finish this. I went around her and stood in front of her this time and say, "I understand you have to do something, but I'm telling you, you don't have to. We spoke about this last night, and I'm your boss's." She cuts me off and says, "You are my boss's boss, and you can help me. Will you help me?" "Yeah, that's why I am here. We can leave right now. Just gather your things and we'll get out of here." For the first time ever, she shows an emotion because I can see the fear in her face as she says, "We have to go. He's coming." "Who's coming?" I ask, but instead of answering my question, she grabs my hand and leads me outside the office. We take the elevator down to the ground level and we walk past the security desk. She's still holding my hand and the security guards look at me weirdly as they say goodnight. I feel a little embarrassed. I mean, I'm walking out of the building with a beautiful woman at this time of the night. So the last thing in their mind would be that I'm helping a poor woman who's being worked to death by her superior. I'll be honest though, I'm really attracted to her. In spite of what happened last night and me thinking for a day that she was some kind of a ghost, she's right here next to me in flesh and blood. She's beautiful, helpless, and more importantly, I can see that she needs me, and that makes me feel good. You see, it's not every day that someone depends on me like she does right now, and it's so stimulating to feel needed by someone, and someone this beautiful no less. But we are walking away from the company garage, and so I stop her and say, I have to go get my car, and for that we have to go back to the company building. She squeezes my hand tighter and says, I'm not going back there. Please, don't make me go back in there. I admit, had she been a man, I would have slapped him into his senses, but her magnificent beauty explains away everything for me, even though in reality, this whole situation is full of questions. I tell her to wait for me by the sidewalk and that I'll drive her home. The whole time I'm walking toward the company building, I turn around to make sure she isn't going to disappear on me like last night. I run back inside, get the car, and quickly pull over right next to her. I get out, open the door for her, and we are on the road now. Right away, I ask her, can you tell me how to get to your place? Or you can give me your address. It works for me either ways. She thinks for a while and says, I don't want to go home. Can you take me to your place? I swear I won't be a bother. Had I been an average man, I would happily say yes, but I am far from an average man, and so I respond, I don't think that's a good idea. You don't answer to me directly, but I am your boss, and it would be highly inappropriate of me to take you to my place. Her voice trembles, and it's obvious something severely troubling her. She speaks to me in the most melancholic voice. I just can't be alone tonight. You said you would help me. Why would you bring me out of that dreadful office if you didn't mean what you said? Just stop the car here. I'll find my own way home. I do stop the car, but I say to her, you are free to do what you want, but you can come with me if you still want that. Otherwise, at least let me drive you home. She smiles at me for the first time, and I can feel myself melting in my seat. She tells me, I want to go with you. Take me with you, please. 10 minutes later, we arrived at my apartment. I took my jacket off and led her straight to my kitchen, then asked, are you hungry? I can't really cook anything, but I've got some stuff in the fridge or we can order. Before I could finish the sentence, she practically jumped on me and kissed me passionately. Mind you, this was my first kiss, and therefore I have no previous experience to compare the rush of emotions I was having. But even so, I don't know if anyone can kiss like the way she did, because I was completely mesmerized. After the first kiss, I felt like I had no control over my body. She did whatever she wanted, and it felt euphoric. Our first go ended rather prematurely, but we went at it like 3 or 4 times before I just fell asleep. She was gone when I woke up in the morning. The only things she left were a few bite marks on my chest and some deep scratches on my shoulder. They stung a little, but I was kind of proud of myself for being good enough in bed to make her go wild like that. Not a bad effort for a first-timer. But all those good feelings went away as soon as I realized she didn't leave me a number to reach her or even a note to tell me why she left like that. I went to work that day and obviously I waited again until late at night to see her again. I was in the office until nearly midnight, but she didn't show up. I can't find a word to describe how I felt when I realized I couldn't see her again. It felt like my whole world came crumbling down. I went home only to find something strange about my apartment. All the curtains were shut, the heat was turned off, and I could smell something was burned inside the apartment. It's like the smell of wood burning. It smelled exactly the same as the smell I remember from my parents' old vacation home in Nagano. The only thing is, I don't have a fireplace in my apartment, and obviously I don't keep any firewood around. I took a quick shower and went to bed right away. I slept only a few hours the night before after much physical exhaustion, and it was very late again when I came out of the shower. I put my head down and I was out, until I was woken up by a strange sensation below my waist. I twisted my upper body and looked below. It was her. I was going to ask her how she got in, but she came up and kissed me. Then my mind went blank again. The same thing happened. We had sex God knows how many times. I remember I couldn't get enough of her. But at some point, I guess I just pass out because I wake up in the morning and she's gone. I think my body reaches a point of exhaustion that it no longer can keep me conscious, and that's probably why I can't remember how the night ended. I got up and the first thing I did was to scream from the top of my lungs. There was blood everywhere on the bed and sheets. My body was littered with bite marks and scratches. It looked like a canvas painted with blood. I walked over to the mirror to check my entire body, and it was the same bloodbath on my back. I took a painful shower with cold water and went to the doctor. He couldn't speak a word for at least a full 10 seconds when I took off my shirt. After he treated me for the injuries, he carefully suggested that I might want to speak to a psychologist. I told him with an awkward smile that my girlfriend and I were into these kinds of things. He told me that it wasn't any of his business, but advised me that we might want to take it a notch down before things get out of hand. It's been 158 days since the day I met her. There wasn't a night when she didn't come. I haven't had a good night's sleep, not once since that day. I stopped going to work some 4 months ago, and my parents no longer speak to me. They probably think I've gone insane, and I'm afraid it won't be long until they lock me up in a mental institution. My body looks like a war zone, and I can barely sit down because every part of my body hurts and burns like you couldn't imagine. I can't go to the hospital because they'll lock me up if they see me like this. I've tried recording the things she does to me, but this bitch is smart, and she somehow always finds the camera I hide during the day. Last time, I had 5 cameras hidden in different places, and the bitch found each and every one of them. Whenever the cameras are turned off, you can't actually see her doing it. Based on what you see on the recording, the only evidence that tells she was there is the camera shutting off right before she goes to work on me. I can't prove to anyone that a ghost is forcing herself on me and mutilating my body every single night. I can't go to the hospital to get these terrible wounds treated. Sleeping in different locations doesn't help. I've tried hotels and even remote cabins, but she always finds me. I've tried staying awake, but when she comes to me, I lose control of my body and mind. I become helpless, like I'm in a vegetative state. The scars are getting deeper with each night, and the lack of sleep is slowly driving me insane. I fear with each passing night that I'll end up seeing my bones exposed through the shredded skins one day. I'm dying. No, more like she's slowly killing me, digging her claws deeper and deeper into my flesh until she can plunge her fangs deep into my beating heart. I should have never tried to be someone that I'm not. Had I been myself that night and chose not to speak to her, all of this could have been prevented. She'll probably be killing someone else, but instead, it's me who she wants dead. My days are numbered, and this story is the only thing I can leave behind. She'll search for her next victim when she's done with me. I said all I could say about her and what she does. For anyone reading this, I hope you'll never come across her, but if you ever do, you know the signs to look for. I'll see you on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this video. I cannot believe I lost my voice already. Anyways, I really hope you've enjoyed it because I've worked extra hard to complete it. The person who translated this story charged me $100 for the translation, but I noticed the translation was crap by my second read through right before doing the narration, and I had to redo the translation myself. My translation tallied in at 4,000 words, but the draft the translator gave me was only 3,000 words. That alone should tell you what a shit job he did on the translation. It wasn't that the translation itself was bad, grammar was decent, expressions were pretty good, but it skipped on many of the important arcs of the story to spend less time on the job. What an idiot! You can earn $100 translating 3,000 to 5,000 words, probably spending 3 to 5 hours, and you just mess it up like that. That's $20 an hour, and they probably won't even pay taxes for that, so it's truly $20 an hour. Anyways, I've got another translator working for me, and I'm really hoping she'll work out better than this guy. I'm sorry, I just had to rant because I was so pissed off when I realized what he had done. You know how the old saying goes, if you want something done right, do it yourself. I know it to be true 99% of the times, but I so very much hope the other translator will prove to be the exception because she'll save me so much time and help me publish more videos. I'll stop the complaining here and I'll leave you with a good news. My old subscribers would know who Rose is. It's a fictitious name of someone real in my life. And if you don't know who that is, you should probably just tune out and save yourself some time. But anywho, I just wanted to tell you guys that she's already paid off nearly half the money I lent her, and it looks like she's doing much better after I gave her the extra shift. I just wanted to keep you guys updated, those of you who know the story, so that I could let you know that she's proved me wrong, and I'm really happy for that. If you remember, I told you guys that I lent her that money fully expecting to never get it back, but I was pleasantly surprised on 2 occasions. The first time was seeing her work even harder when she got the extra shift, and the second time was on Tuesday when she gave me half the money back. I was ecstatic to eat crow, and not for the money. I think you guys would understand the feeling. It just felt good not to be disappointed by another human being, to be pleasantly surprised when you least expect it. Okay, that's going to do it for me on this video. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. Oh yeah, and I'm so thankful that you guys are still with me after the last break, the long break. You guys are amazing, and another thing, I apologize to those of you who send me wonderful messages because I'm unable to reply to them in a timely manner. I hope you can understand between the comments, messages on Facebook and Twitter, and obviously making the videos, it is impossible for me to respond to your messages as quickly as I would like. I want you to know I do read all of them, and based on my track record of responding to your comments, I think you would trust me on that I do read all your messages. So don't be offended if I don't respond to you quickly, or even if I don't respond at all. Sometimes old messages get buried under a pile of new ones, and unfortunately I lose track of them. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But yeah, anyways, thank you for everything. I love you guys, like seriously love you guys. Oh my god, I can't speak. Sorry, I've lost my voice. I could barely speak. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Goodbye.